The Forgotten Highway. Chapter 1. Familiar Streets. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the quiet streets of Willow Creek. A decade had passed since Emily had last set foot in her hometown, and as she drove through the familiar avenues, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. She had returned for a visit, hoping to reconnect with old friends and explore the place that held so many memories. But as she stepped out of her car, a sense of disorientation washed over her. The town seemed altered. The streets were eerily quiet, devoid of the usual hustle and bustle. She couldn't recall ever seeing an empty street in Willow Creek. As Emily walked toward her childhood home, she noticed the houses seemed to loom over her, their once welcoming facades now imposing and foreboding. The windows of a neighbor's house were always lit, but no one ever sat at the table inside. She wondered if the lights were left on by accident or if it was some sort of dark ritual. She passed a child's bike that had been abandoned on the sidewalk for what felt like weeks. The rust and dirt on the frame suggested neglect, as if no one cared anymore. Emily tried to shake off her unease, attributing the oddities to her own imagination. She told herself she was just being paranoid after so long away. But as she wandered through the empty streets, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. It wasn't just a fleeting thought, it was a constant, oppressive presence that seemed to follow her every step. She glanced over her shoulder, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Emily finally reached her childhood home, the place where so many memories had been made. But as she stood on the porch, looking at the familiar facade, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The house seemed to pulse with a sinister energy, as if it too was watching her, waiting for her to reveal her intentions. She hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, her heart racing with anticipation and fear. As she closed the door behind her, she realized she had no idea what lay ahead. Little did she know her return to Willow Creek would lead her down a path of darkness and uncover secrets that could change everything she thought she knew about herself and her hometown. Chapter 2. The Stranger in the Shadows. Emily's first night back in Willow Creek was anything but restful. She tossed and turned in her old bedroom, the silence of the house amplifying every creak and whisper. As dawn approached, she decided to take a walk through town, hoping some fresh air would clear her mind. The streets were still quiet, as if everyone in Willow Creek had gone into hiding. Emily noticed a man standing by the town square, his face shrouded in shadows. He wore a broad, brimmed hat, casting a deep shadow over his eyes. There was something unsettling about him, a sense of otherworldly presence that made her skin crawl. As she continued her walk, Emily spotted a young girl on a bicycle, riding aimlessly through the empty streets. The girl's face was pale, her expression haunted. She followed Emily at a distance, never making eye contact, but always close enough to make her uneasy. Emily tried to ignore the girl, convincing herself that she was just being paranoid. But as the days passed, the strange occurrences became more frequent and more unsettling. At local events, like the town's annual fair, Emily would catch glimpses of the same man with the unnerving smile. He would be at the edge of the crowd, observing everything without saying a word. She couldn't help but feel that he was watching her specifically, as if he knew something about her that she didn't. Then there were the nights when Emily heard strange noises coming from her home. Footsteps in the hallway, the creaking of floorboards, and the sound of objects being moved or dropped. She would wake up to find her things out of place, a book on her nightstand that she hadn't touched, a picture frame turned upside down. It was as if someone had been in her house while she was asleep. The more Emily tried to understand what was happening, the more it seemed like everyone around her was playing some sort of twisted game. Townspeople were strangely silent when she asked about the girl on the bike or the man with the unsettling smile. They would look at her with blank expressions, as if they didn't understand what she was talking about. Emily started to feel trapped in a nightmare where everyone knew more than they were letting on. She was being watched, followed, and manipulated, but by whom and for what reason, she couldn't fathom. The sense of unease grew stronger with each passing day, making her question whether she had made a mistake returning to Willow Creek. As the line between reality and nightmare blurred, Emily knew she had to uncover the truth behind these mysterious figures and the strange occurrences that seemed to revolve around her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being drawn into something far more sinister than she had ever imagined, and she had no idea if she would be able to escape. Chapter 3. The House on the Elm. Emily's determination to uncover the truth led her deeper into Willow Creek's dark secrets. She spent nights searching through old books in the local library, hoping to find something that could explain the strange occurrences plaguing her in the town. Days were spent sneaking around, trying to catch a glimpse of the mysterious figures who seemed to be following her. One evening, as Emily returned home after another fruitless search at the library, she was met with an even more chilling discovery. As she stepped into her living room, she noticed that something didn't seem right. The air felt heavy and oppressive, as if the very walls were closing in on her. She flicked on the lights and began to inspect her home. To her shock, she found symbols etched into the wall, strange runes and shapes that seemed almost alien in their design. Emily's heart raced as she realized these weren't just random markings. They looked like a form of ancient script or language. As she continued her search, Emily uncovered even more disturbing evidence. Personal items were moved or hidden in seemingly impossible ways. A bracelet that she had left on the table was now under her bed. Books were arranged in patterns she didn't recognize. It was as if an unseen force had taken control of her home and was leaving messages in its wake. The sense of being watched grew even stronger, as if this sinister presence knew exactly what Emily was doing and was attempting to communicate with her. She felt a growing urgency to understand the source of these occurrences before it was too late. The more she delved into Willow Creek's dark past, the more she realized that there were forces at work that went far beyond anything she could have imagined. Late one night, as Emily sat in her bedroom, surrounded by the strange symbols and patterns left by the unseen force, she finally understood what was happening. She wasn't being followed or watched, she was being manipulated by a power far greater than herself. This force had been hidden in Willow Creek for generations, its presence unknown to anyone except those who wielded it. As Emily stared at the strange symbols on her walls, she knew that her journey to uncover the truth had only just begun. She would need to uncover more about this ancient power and how it was connected to her own life before she could hope to escape its grasp. The battle for her freedom and the fate of Willow Creek now rested in her hands, and she had no idea if she would be able to succeed.